missing someone.
The EchoCast, Episode 5, The Baun-out. Welcome to the podcast. I am Bon Diesel. If you don't know who I am, I'm Bon Diesel. I thought I already explained that. And I do a mostly The Division focused podcast. This is the 5th episode. It's our first 5-episode anniversary. So that's that. Let's just get right into it. Why don't you say? As always, I'd like to do a little content update, and then we'll get into some other stuff like State of the Game. The first thing I'll talk about is that this week, if you didn't catch it, I did do a Words with Baun and post it. And the prestigious guest this week was myself. For some reason. Because people wanted it to be, which I really appreciate. So check that out. I've gotten some good response. The viewership has been really good. It's a bit longer. It's still not as long as Olifer's, but his was even more excellent and an even better read. So why don't you check that out while you're there? So there's links to that if you're listening on SoundCloud. It's down. It's in my other content links there. On YouTube, it should be down in the description. The second bit of update with content would be another Words with Baun that was posted yesterday or last night as a video edition on YouTube with Bay Diesel. You're getting a whole Bay Diesel, Bon Diesel smattering this week. So during stream last night, Bay Diesel came and hung out for a little bit, and we had talked about doing a Words with Baun with her, like a video one, and we just did it. She didn't know. I dropped it on her, but she went with it, and it was a lot of fun. It was interesting. She wasn't as mean as I thought she'd be, so I appreciated that. And yeah, so that's on YouTube. You can check it out. I'm probably not gonna type up a written version. It was just it was so ad hoc that I would rather you guys just listen to it yourselves. The next bit is I am still working on the Division 2 location video with possible locations, including landmarks, possible base of operations, assuming we have a similar setup as the current game. We there's been some chitter chatter. There's been some possible leaks of that information, but until I see it on the screen, I won't believe it. So until then, I will speculate until my eyes fall out. Fallout 4, Boston. Ooh, maybe that's one of them. Probably not, but we'll see. The next little bit of update news. Next Thursday is my 30th birthday. I am taking Thursday and Friday off of work, which means during the day I won't be doing anything. I'll probably be hanging out, going out to dinner, and enjoying some family time those evenings. But during the day, I was planning on streaming for at least one of the days, and over the weekend I should be as well. So be on the lookout for that. Should be a good time, should be fun. I'll wear my birthday suit, see how long it takes for Twitch to shut me down. Not really. I don't want to do that to you. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We might get crazy. So be on the lookout for that. Maybe we'll try to theme it, do something special for that. That could be kind of fun. If you have any ideas, let me know. I'm curious. The last bit of news I have is a potential, let me make that really clear, possible, potential, currently unconfirmed giveaway that I've really wanted to do for a long time and might actually be able to do it. So I found two separate places to order the Division figurine, the one that has the Seeker mine that lights up, the watch and the the computer on the shoulder both light up. He's holding the vector, looking all stoic. Someone pointed out on Twitter today that he has a sight on the vector that we don't even have in the game. I technically pointed out that part of the sight we actually do have. It's the experimental or the EXP-53 sight, but it has optimal range as its main talent, so no one has ever used it in the history of the game. I'm sure someone's used it, but it's not exactly meta. So there's some conditions to this giveaway. One, they both have to actually ship and arrive at my home. I ordered one off Amazon and one off of some website I've never heard of before. I absolutely got seller buyer protection on it because I am terrified that it's some scam. What I imagine happens is that there's these toy companies and stuff like that, and just kind of random websites that find this kind of stuff in stock from a couple years ago, and they just didn't have it up. And either they realize how rare they are and they post them for like $200, or they have no idea and they post them cheap and they sell like instantly. So the two I found were kind of that later description to a point. So if one comes, I'm going to be selfish and keep it for myself. I apologize. I'm not a perfect person. I do the best I can. If two show up, I will be giving the second one away. And while that may not be a huge appeal to non-Division fans, I suspect it will still be probably one of my most popular giveaways if I can do it. As I know if someone else was doing a giveaway for that, I would be going nuts. So expect to see lots of ways to enter. I'm going to try to do like daily or weekly entries as well for like YouTube videos, maybe even the podcast, things like that. So be on the lookout for that. Look on Twitter. I'll be updating. Basically, I'm waiting to see that they have both shipped. Neither one has shipped yet. So until they ship, I won't believe that they were actually in stock. I'm setting myself up. I'm keeping in mind neither one may come. I'm really hoping at least the Amazon one is legit. It was a little more expensive. If the other one shows up, it was so cheap, I would be flabbergasted. So keep an eye out for that. I'll update as I can. Next, state of the game recap. Pretty simple one this week, but that's okay. They talked about maintenance. They did mention that it was normal maintenance, background stuff that we don't know much about or really need to know much about. But they did fix a issue where in the underground, exotics were dropping in the underground as they should, but the vendor things were still dropping, which is a bit disheartening when we've been waiting for this patch for a while to not get those things anymore. And then boom, there's your historian instead of your house. So check that out. That's good stuff. That's a quick fix. It's nice that they were able to take care of that fairly quickly. The other big thing they talked about was global event Blackout starting. Starts on 4/23/18. You're just gonna have to look up. I believe they said 12 o'clock UTC. I believe you'll just need to look up and see what that means for your local time zone. I think it's like 3 in the morning. The 22nd or something for me. Or the 23rd. Not too worried about it. I'll be working anyways. But my 2 days off will include this Blackout global event, which will feature the Striker, Tactician, Deadeye, and D3 sets. There's going to be 3, in air quotes, new masks coming with it. As you've probably seen, they're actually the reskinned mask from another global event. People have got various opinions on those. I believe they are the CBRN, the Chemist, and the Classic mask, if what I'm seeing is correct. Obviously I think most people were hoping for or expecting a brand new mask. I was, if you want me to be totally honest. I'm still really hurting for like the actual LMB mask. I think those would be sweet. I think those would be really cool. Or the first wave agent mask, kind of the same thing. But you know, it is what it is. Maybe for the last one, but more than likely, I'm going to assume at this point we'll be looking at 3 more of the masks reskin for the second global event that's coming out. So is what it is. Hey, they're there. Honestly, for me, for this global event, the electric bullets and the super duper melee is what I'm most excited about anyways. So the masks, you know, they are what they are. But I think that melee especially is going to be a blast. I'm wondering how that's going to work with like a D3 build or something, because especially a 6-piece, it's already got the increased damage, plus it's going to have that big explosion. So check it out. Looks like it's going to be fun. I can't wait to do it. I need Striker and Tactician. Those are the 2 I really want. Anyways, so I'll be hitting that up. The other big change I can think of is that this will be the first time we'll have a global event that will have the specific gear set caches. So they've gotten rid of the 900 credit cache that we previously had, and that I'm not aware that anyone purchased. I remember there was a rumor for a short time that those caches had a higher chance of exotics or something. I'm not sure that ever got confirmed or denied, but you know, it's gone, so it doesn't really matter anymore. And now when you look in there, you'll have the superior cache that can drop 2 to 4 items, I believe, or 2 to 3. And you'll have a cache for Striker, Tactician, Deadeye, and D3. So you'll be guaranteed a piece from those sets, but you're not guaranteed which piece it's going to be. So if you're looking for that chest, it could just as easily be a holster or a mask or anything like that, you know, based on the drop rates. And I imagine they all have an equal drop rate, so you have a 1 in 6 chance. But I believe those caches are only going to drop 1 item, and I think they're more expensive than the superior cache. So, you know, there's going to be kind of a risk reward thing there. Let me know. I'm kind of curious to what you guys are going to do for grinding credits. I think I'm going to give Amherst Legendary a go and see if that is useful or worth the time or not. I've been told that, you know, you can still kind of run through the level like you could before, but now obviously it should have more credits awarded. So we'll have to see whether or not that it is worth it or not. I suspect it's not going to be. I imagine we're still going to be looking at Clear Sky, Lexington, or I can't remember, in Hudson or whatever it is on the west side. So, state of the game. They did do some agent highlights. I believe that my emoji agent got posted this time. So did Bicycle of Death. Dynasty, I saw him doing his flip. I never look at chat during State of the Game. Literally, I pop into State of the Game, I say hello, I see, you know, who's in there, say hi to them, and I turn chat off and just watch it. Well, this particular time, I made the mistake of opening chat when my emoji agent got posted, and I was just ravaged. It was rough. I think they gave me a 7.5 out of 10, which I will gladly accept, and the masses did not agree. So I had a little reality check there, a little ego check during the State of the Game today. But that's cool. I was glad to see all that stuff. I really like Bicycle of Deaths. His is really cool. So check that out if you want. They do post. You can go on the Twitch and watch those VODs. There's also a few people on YouTube who repost those VODs as well. So that's it for State of the Game. The next bit I have, this is typically Division news. Kind of a slow week, at least as far as I'm aware. But the one bit of news that came out just a couple hours ago was they confirmed again, I guess, the Division movie. It's been the director has changed. I believe the previous director, I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but was the guy who did like Sicario and stuff like that, which there were a lot of people saying that The Division wasn't really his type of subject or film. I mean, like Sicario, I feel like that had that feel of that kind of movie would be fine. But you know, the subject matter is kind of unique. But it's not him anymore, so it doesn't matter. So David Litch has been named as the director. He currently, I believe, is the director for Deadpool 2, which is about to come out. They just released their final trailer for that game. He also was a part of John Wick 2, I believe, but then left that project during filming. I don't know what he was doing. I don't think he was the director. But he went and did, or was a part of Atomic Blonde, which I've never seen, but I've heard good things about. The little bit of stipulation, and the thing that I'm a little careful about with this news is he's directing a Fast and Furious spinoff that has Jason Statham, of course, because why wouldn't it? And that is going to get filmed first, and I believe that's in progress currently. Either he's currently filming or they're in pre-production of some type. And the website, I believe it was a Variety article, and now there's a whole bunch of articles about it. If you look it up, stated something along the lines of that they, I think they're going to go into pre-production on The Division in late 2019. The way those things go, it's more than likely it's probably going to be like early 2020. So before I move on to the community news, the one thing I think is interesting about that little tidbit with the movie, one thing to keep in mind is that Ubisoft does have a movie department. I assume they probably work with PR a bit. Those movies that came out for The Division before the game came out, even there's a little documentary sort of video that you can find. I think it's on Amazon about Far Cry 5. I assume they kind of have some stuff to do with that. And then big movies like the Assassin's Creed movie, which we won't talk too much about. It's the way that we don't want the Division movie to go. They are involved, but one thing to keep in mind is that I suspect that people involved with the actual game, The Division, Division 2, will likely be lightly consulted. But don't expect anyone that we deal with to know anything about the movie. That will be so far beyond and outside of their scope that, and they're probably fine with that. You have to keep in mind with this movie, what it's likely going to be is them taking the base story, someone writing a script that hopefully has a lot to do with it, but they don't always reference the Resident Evil movies and Assassin's Creed. And then they kind of do what they gotta do to make it so they think they'll sell the most tickets. So I personally believe that The Division has a lot going for it with a movie, with a film, because the story is based in relative reality. It's believable, right? And it's in an iconic location. I assume they'll be filming it and doing it in New York City. That makes the most sense, even though, by the time it comes out, we'll be well into the Division 2 and probably even maybe towards the end of Division 2, depending on how they lay out the content. But I think, as far as I can remember and think of, when it comes to video game movies, this is probably one of the better directors. The cast that they've announced so far is Chastain and Jake Gyllenhaal. Not bad choices. I was having a conversation with, I believe it was Livefire today, or I believe it was him, who was saying something along the lines of they hope that they can pull in Ryan Reynolds into it. My idea is that he'd be a hilarious JTF agent to just make a quick appearance, but we'll see. That movie's going to be interesting. So if you look at the movies that he's done, they've been kind of high action films, maybe not the most dramatic things on earth. My thing with a Division movie is that I feel like a Division movie would be best if it's kind of gritty and maybe even kind of small in scope. If I was able to push the movie in a certain direction, I would want to basically focus on two agents, maybe Chastain and Gyllenhaal, who meet up. They have two other agents in their pod that they're supposed to meet up. They get killed, and they basically have some relatively small storyline that they follow that's within the whole scope of the story. The way it's probably going to work out, if they take from the game, you'll probably spend the movie going after a couple head honchos and then realizing that Keener's the big bad guy, and then them going after him. So, maybe not. Maybe they'll do something completely different. But I wouldn't mind a more focused, maybe even a smaller story that's done in a very gritty, kind of interesting way. But we haven't necessarily seen that from this director, so we'll have to see. So, TD news. That was it, at least for this week. The next piece here is community news. I tried searching a little bit. I'm sure I missed some stuff. The big thing I found was that Taylor did put out a video about the Blackout Global event. I highly suggest you check out his channel. I will try to remember to link that in the description of the YouTube video or in the description of the Soundcast podcast. This may be the first podcast that goes up on Google Play as well. I'm going to attempt to also get on the iTunes, but there's some hurdles there that I'm going to have to defeat, but we'll get there. So check out Taylor's video. Very informative, good as always, and that's community news. So, as I always say, my favorite part of the podcast, we're going to be doing a little bit of Division 2 speculation. I reached out a little bit. I probably could have done more, and asked if anyone had any ideas of what they wanted me to talk about. They're probably like, no, Baun, don't talk about it all anymore because it's too much. Well, too bad. I made up my own stuff. So today we're going to talk about incursions and legendaries, or just maybe missions in general for the sequel. I think that's going to be an interesting subject, and I'm really interested to see if they follow a similar path as they did with this game, with the original. I would say maybe in a very high level way they may, but in a more down and actual player playing the game way, I'm expecting a lot of changes to try to keep things fresh, to try to have more things to do, to try to have a more immediate focus on endgame as soon as the game is out. Anyone who is a day one player knows that if you boosted it, not even if you boosted, if you just played a lot and got to 30 quick, or even relatively quick, there wasn't really anything to do. Falcon's Lost came out, but that was impossibly hard, and then people figured out how to glitch it. You had very few things to do. I think the common explanation for that people will throw out is, well, they didn't expect people to get there that quick, and maybe they didn't. Even for, I suspect a lot of these guys know their games and know their the type of game really well, and I find it kind of hard to believe that they wouldn't realize that there would be some people, at least, and a decent number of people who would get through it pretty quickly. But regardless, at this point we're in a good place, and I think the goal, in my opinion, and hopefully in theirs, is to be where we're currently at, if not even further, when it comes to replayability in game. It's that gameplay loop that you're searching for, right? It's all about that gameplay loop. You want people to have a thing they need to do to get a thing that they want, maybe to even lead to something else they want, and then back to a thing that they can do. And you want that. And there's other games that have that loop and that do it really well. The Diablo games, Path of Exile, Warframe is a really good one. While that's not a game I particularly care for myself, I've noticed from the people who are really, really into it that I know for me, I'm still able to play Lexington and enjoy it. I'm still able to farm gear and enjoy it, or play Underground, or play Survival. And I'm a glutton. I like repetitive things. I like to play the same thing over and over again to get a little bit faster or whatever. And like for me, like the way that the quicker the more headshots you can get on each enemy, and the faster you can kill them, like I still enjoy that challenge. But admittedly, know that the gameplay loop still isn't amazing for this game. It's better than it was, And there is, especially with classified gear and stuff like that, it's probably in the best state it's ever been, which I think is great. But my goal and my hope for the Division 2 is that when it comes out and you hit max level, which I bet isn't 30, I bet it's higher this time. If there's even traditional levels like that, there may be a whole different progression system. Maybe that's a speculation topic for a different day. But whatever the end game, however you get to the end game, when you get there in the Division 2, I hope and I suspect, and I hope I'm right, that it will be extensive and exciting and fun. There's a lot of people saying, well, they better have survival and last stand and skirmish and underground, and they better have all those things in there. I better not have to pay for them after we already waited for them, paid for them once. I don't know if I would expect that necessarily. I would say that we'll get some kind of spiritual successors to those modes. I wouldn't maybe expect them to be there when the game comes out. If they are, that's amazing. If they aren't, I just hope that if they do bring them out, not as the beginning, right when the game comes out, if those things aren't there or things like that, I hope they progress all of those things in a way where we don't feel like we're just paying for the same thing again, like people have felt with some other games. That would be a really big bummer. I think the current game, for the vast majority of players, maybe not the talking heads that you hear the most often, it isn't, but I think it's in a really good spot. I think it's recovered its reputation really well. Whether, however it's happened through reviews from game websites, from, fanboys like myself, or even from people who maybe weren't fanboys and have acknowledged that while the game may not be, 24/7 playable, for someone who's already put 3,000 hours into it, that it is in a better spot than it's ever been in most ways. And it's they can carry on that momentum, and that momentum can last a long time. Doing things like shields correctly, treating us with respect at the end of this game before the Division 2 comes out can carry a lot of momentum in, and they can take that momentum, and if they give us a fun mission structure, some fun incursions, some fun missions, and a nice gameplay loop and end-game, that can really knock the sequel out of the park. With the things they've learned, especially when it comes to actual incursions and things like that, and just the missions in general, even your basic missions, give us mechanics, and don't necessarily feel the need to walk us to hold our hands through everything. I understood it with this game because a lot of people came into this game who didn't even know what an RPG was. I think this game attracted a lot of Call of Duty players, Battlefield players, people who played games with a similar aesthetic. And even myself, for a very long time, didn't realize this game was even going to be an RPG. I thought it was just going to be a third-person shooter. I didn't realize it was going to be the stat-based, talent, skill, blah 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 thing. Chance, RNG-based game. My very small experiences with those type of games was mostly like Fallout, and while that definitely is an RPG of a sort, a lot of its stats are kind of not a lot, but a good amount of stats in that game are kind of hidden. You can play that game just to play it, and maybe not even realize the depth of the RPG elements. So I understand why this game kind of catered to that light RPG crowd, and I still think the Division will, but I still think they can take it a step further. One example I make quite often, if you listen to the stream or hang out on the stream, you'll know I bring this up fairly often, but the most complex mission we have is the most hated mission in the whole game, at least in my experience. And that's Stolen Signal. Stolen Signal, while I think its biggest problem is the fact that Stolen Signal, the rewards are not worth the time and the effort you have to put into them. It's the same as doing Amherst Legendary, essentially. It has mechanics. It's one of the few missions in the game that has a significant mechanic. It handholds quite a bit, but not entirely. The only other ones I can think of are Dragon's Nest, but it's an insanely simple mechanic that you don't have to figure out. It tells you what to do. One thing that, while I'm not a Destiny 2 fan, really in any way, shape, or form, I remember when that first raid came out, and while I know I've heard kind of mixed reviews on that raid, I've actually gone and watched some Destiny 1 raids as well. The fun thing with that was that people like that you played with a couple more people. I believe it's 6, and you literally went into these multi-level missions that are extremely difficult, in that when you walk in, you don't know how to beat it. You have to figure it out, and you're gonna die, and you're gonna get pissed, and you're gonna get frustrated. But all of those things combine into an experience that, when you're successful, it's exhilarating. And that's kind of that's something that was really missing from the Division. The closest we had to that, like I said, was Stolen Signal, and that's arguable, right? I don't know. I don't know. I peeked at chat. Splinter. Maybe it's not. I don't know what mission I would say is. Splinter Shield said in chat that he didn't. He doesn't think that Stolen Signal is the most hated. Maybe it's not. I could see people thinking maybe if there's a mission that's oversimplified or something like that, that's more hated. I could see that as an argument as well. But I just feel like Stolen Signal is avoided by a lot of players. Again, like I said before, I think that's mostly because the rewards just aren't really worth it. It's a long mission, even if you do it fairly quickly. But I like that. I love Stolen Signal, and I say that as someone who's actually never completed it from beginning to end. I have completed it technically, but it was to help someone finish it. I didn't even start. I've started it. I've played through all of it, but I've never actually completed it from beginning to start, or from beginning to end. So that's a big thing I hope for. I hope that, and I would hope for it for almost every mission. I mean, you have Subway Morgue, where you do have to carry, you have to light up the breakers. It's a really simple mechanic. And it's something that you almost kind of felt like, and then you see that carry over into Clear Sky, where you have to do something similar. There's a few mechanics in there, but really all people did was just figure out how to basically cheese it, instead of, because maybe the mechanics weren't really that good, or, I feel like basically people kind of have to cheese it, and then it became the 3-minute mission or whatever. So. That people use for global events. But that's just a big hope I have. I really hope they take... I hope they're willing to challenge the player base a little more in the next one. And they're willing to expect more from the player base in the next one. But that's just me. I don't know. Maybe the mission layouts are going to be completely different. Maybe we're going to have just entirely different layouts of everything. I would take a few really good, complex missions over, Resistance. The Horde mode stuff is cool. It's fine. It is what it is. It's not really my thing. I don't really enjoy that. But other people do, and other people may have no interest in a mechanically heavy mission. And that's probably why we'll have all of those things, I hope. So that's my little bit shorter than normal speculation piece on the Division 2. But I guess to kind of sum up my thoughts, basically, I'm hoping and I'm expecting that we will have significantly more complicated missions, not just incursions, but just missions in general, that I really hope challenge us, that we aren't just handed the answers to, maybe even have multiple ways to beat them. And that's the hope, and I would even be willing to say that's the expectation that I have for it. So... kind of start wrapping things up a little bit in gaming news. I personally have been playing Battlefield since 1942. So when I saw that a little more confirmation, a little more talk this week of a Battlefield Battle Royale, I can't say I was surprised. I've heard other people say it, and I agree. I'm still pretty surprised the BR thing hasn't plateaued and died yet. I still think we're heading towards that. But there's a lot of companies pumping a lot of money, including possibly Massive, into this genre, and I think a lot of them are going to be too late. But I feel like some of the more innovative ones may kind of, carry it along for a little bit longer than people thought. And we'll see. I mean, I think it's a game that mechanically would be great for a BR. If you think about like the gunplay and stuff like that of like Battlefield 4 combined with all the tools are there to make a BR. Even, they figured out all of their netcode, or at least most of their netcode issues. I mean, they're really in a great spot to do something like that. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see how they handle it. And in very similar news, there was also talk that Call of Duty may be getting a battle royale. That's one that I have a little bit less faith in. And that's one that definitely, when I heard about both of these stories, it really just reeked of like late to the party, But when you have big marketing budgets and big production budgets, who knows? Maybe they'll pull it off. The next piece there, I was reading a little bit and watching some videos about the Warmind DLC for Destiny 2. Comes out on May 8th. From the people I know who like Destiny 2 and still play it or are going to go back as new content comes out. I don't think anyone's really expecting this to be the bring everyone back situation, but I think people are excited about it. I think most people are looking forward to this fall when I believe some bigger changes are going to happen that I think a lot of people are excited about. They are doing a ETF-ish thing. I believe it's called the Summit. One criticism I've seen of it is that it seems like they basically only invited gigantic streamers to it. So there's some people who are worried that it's basically just going to be a pat on the back, rah kind of thing, because they didn't invite kind of regular players. I feel like the ETF has always been pretty good about that, inviting obviously a few big streamers and stuff like that, but also either people who don't full-time the game or more casual players, things like that. So we'll see. I'm not a big Destiny fan. The aesthetic of the game isn't my thing, but I've always said it's the same thing I say about like football or sports. I like the NFL. The more NFL teams that are good, the better football is. The better the game is to watch. When it's more fun to watch two good teams play each other than to watch one terrible team play a good team. It's just that gets boring. And when it comes to video games, it's the same way. Because just like in sports, when one team is good, they challenge and they force the other teams to get better. And I feel like it's the same with video games. So games like The Division need games like Warframe and Destiny and these other games to be good. They need that competition. It keeps them innovating. It keeps them working hard and caring about their output and caring about what they do. So I hope Destiny 2 recovers. I still probably won't be playing it, but that doesn't matter. I want people that wanted that game to be good, to be happy, and to get that fulfillment. But we'll see. We'll have to see what they do. And then the last bit of news I have is for Mech Warrior 5 Mercenaries. A trailer came out showing the types of destruction that are available and that we should expect to see in the game. So I turn 30 next week, as I was talking about my birthday earlier. I cannot wait. I will probably play this. I don't know if my computer will be able to handle it. I don't know about any of that stuff. We shall see. But I'm really excited about this. I think it's going to be really cool. There's just something so nostalgic about the Mech Warrior franchise, and I know some of the games weren't great. I think the last one I played was probably Mech Warrior 2. I know there's been I've dabbled in a couple other games. I think it was like Iron Hounds, and there's a few other games that have come out that I dabbled in a little bit. They just didn't give me the same feeling that game did. So I'm curious to if they're going to be able to recapture some of that nostalgia, and then produce a good fun game that a lot of people will enjoy. So Mech Warrior 5, we will see. So that's what I have for you today. That's probably pretty much going to be the podcast for today. I appreciate anyone who's watching live right now on Twitch, anyone who checks us out on SoundCloud or YouTube, and hopefully Google Play. I really appreciate you listening. I will, keep you guys updated on the giveaway, hopefully for the Division Agent figurine. Keep an eye on my Twitter for information on that. I will let you guys know as soon as I know something. Look for some streams, look for some videos, look for some stuff coming up. Intel Insights is still going. I've still got quite a bit of stuff to do on that. The Division 2 location video within the next week or so, I would say. And I do have a pretty good number of Words with Baun articles in the works. And I have one that I need to just type up and send out to you guys. So that's what I have for you today. Again, this is Baun Diesel. This was the podcast, The Baun Out, episode 5. Thank you very much for listening, and until next time.